benefit of observing how it wanes. And that's probably more important than even coming to full fruition with a lot of what we're considering as New Year's resolution, but actually how it wanes. Because when it wanes, this is like a distilling of your achievable level of that commitment. And we get an opportunity to see what was realistic within that. So if we can commit then once again and consider it as being not just one New Year resolution, but a continuation of a continuation of a continuation, we can just pick it up from where we left off and keep expanding with it without feeling like we're not able to accomplish. Rather, instead, we're just getting from one place to the next like that and expanding. And it's funny how it works. So we create momentum and then we slow down, and then we create momentum and then we slow down. But every time we expand into creating more momentum and then slowing down again, we've successfully taken a movement forward. So something to contemplate. That there's really no stalling or holding per se. It's just the rate of your movement. And the more we can actually just let go and accept that that's actually our personal rhythm of movement, but without the holding. So that's what it is, without that holding pattern. Then all of a sudden this very natural way of going about things becomes A, incredibly joyous, and B, exact same rhythm but in a quicker fashion. So we gain momentum and slow down, but that time spent within the momentum and the slowing down is shortened or quickened, or maybe it becomes longer in the expanded form and then shorter in the rest. And it's creative. And that exact same process occurs within a meditation practice as well. So you will find that there's times where you're making strong gains and times where you are slowing down, and maybe you keep looking at the same thing for a while, and then again you find gains, and you start to notice the rhythm exists everywhere. So to be able to tap into that with increased levels of consciousness, this is sustained evolution. So there's a sustainability around it. In some respects, you can look at life and also meditation as an endurance game. So it's the more time spent with it, the better it is, the better it gets. Life is the same way. The more we're able to just stay with that flow of rhythm, then the better it gets. So now in relation to meditation, it acts as an observatory for us to examine thought, emotion, sensation, and become really clear as to where those catching points are that holds us. But then also on the other side of that, when we're interacting with our environment, it gives us an opportunity to have a tool then to work with whatever is coming up on the reactive side. What I mean by that is often meditation reveals an aspect of yourself, and within that uncovering, it gives a new opportunity to work with it differently. And that's on a really small scale, but also on a large scale as well, depending on where you are within your life experience at the moment. But this innate understanding inside of us that life is meant to be a little bit easier or smooth, and our pursuits and efforts towards that is valid. So the meditation providing an opportunity to respond differently is that expanding consciousness, giving opportunity to connect the nervous system, the patterning of the brain into that action. So it moves itself out of the mental, even physiological perspective from a seat into an active engagement of mental and physiological activity. So now your meditation becomes dynamic in nature. Eyes wide open, walking around. And in the engagement with nature and its laws are then what feeds back into your meditative technique and practice. So it's taking the examination at a very close and fine level, and then expanding it out into more of a gross level activity. So oftentimes, within the realm of reaction, we're seeing everything from a topical experience. And when we go into a meditation, this is now much more responsive. So we're seeing everything at a finer level. And within that fine expression, we often see the truth of why it's happening. And then within that truth, there's an ease that comes with it, because we start to realize that there's reason for it all. There's rhyme to that. And within that rhyme, there's rhythm. And we just have to become highly skilled at accepting the first two, reason and rhyme, so that we can really get to our own personal rhythm within it all. And that rhythmic nature is this concept of inner and outer environment. So ideally, those two places are matching, no matter what it is that we're doing. So it's non-specific in that way. If we start to make our calculation of understanding and reason, meaning, purpose from this inside place, and then express it outwards, then all of a sudden the most mundane become incredibly enthralling in terms of their ability to be exciting. And it's illustrated time and time again throughout the ages, to the point where people have written about it. And in all of those writings, it's interpreted in the same way, in different languages and different dressings. And from that interpretation, it seems to be always the practice is developed in the same way, meaning take a mundane task and then apply yourself to that, whatever it may be. Sweeping, walking, washing, cleaning. And then in that act, going through some of the resistance that might be there. And you successfully, in the active participant role of moving through the resistance, begin to feel the openings emerge within your technical seat of meditation. So now we can do the exact same thing in Edmonton. We take on our mundane everyday activity. So whether it be cleaning the house, washing the dishes, going grocery shopping, going to work, sitting at a computer, whatever it is that you do. But now you apply that same mental attitude that you have with your meditation practice. and you find that enthralling excitement within it. So it has nothing to do with the activity and everything to do with the person who is engaging in the activity. But now, how do you make yourself interested in something on a social setting? Well, generally you would, in a very Western, not even Western so much anymore, but in society, you would apply some sort of foreign substance into your body to make it that much more interesting. Right? You have a glass of wine, and then all of a sudden everything is much more fun. This is our social lubricant. So within the realm of meditation, the elixir that you are engaging with is found within your breathing. So we increase the interest of the mind into that which we are engaging with on the mundane reality through just simply taking an inhale and an exhale. But a very specific kind of inhale-exhale that speaks to becoming that much more enthralling, that much more exciting. And you could do it right now. So show me excitement. Is it possible for you to do that? And I see smiles starting to emerge, so I know even on an immediate base it's starting to work. But notice what happens is a specific posturing of body, soft palate, even nasal passage, and an organization of this nervous system in relation to the tissue that is forming an organization of the brain that then says, well, this is going to be exciting. And for a second or two it lasts, or maybe even for a minute. But if we just keep exercising that, that's just a simple example, it becomes stronger. So now it doesn't matter any longer what it is that you're doing or even where you are, but it's now how you are engaging with that environment when you're doing it. And that's coming from the inside place. So now the inside is meaning the outside. And the outside on a continuous basis is being defined by this inner experience. So with success, we begin to redefine our experiences on the outer reality, which begin to match that experience which we're having inside. Now there's a feedback loop that's associated to it, which then has no choice but to start to use emotions and thought in order to reinforce that which it is experiencing. So what's really amazing is that any one thing that we look at could be anything. Even someone in a bad mood could be seen as somebody in a good mood having a bad mood. And then all of a sudden, someone who's actually in a good mood, in a bad mood, looks much different than that person is in a bad mood. But that goes with every single thought that you have, every holding pattern, every aspect of your psychology which is slowing you down, so to speak. But we have to ask the question, well, why? Why is this great momentum thinning itself down to a very fine level? What exists here on the periphery of that rhythmic movement? How is it drawing your attention in a specific way? What is that is engaging the attention? And is it necessary? And you could very well say, no, it's not necessary. Well, then what do we do with that? Within our meditative process, we want it to dissolve, we want it to let go. We no longer need to be looking at that aspect of thought. It's expired, let's say. So if that's the truth, that's now the first installation of the letting go process. But we want it to be revealed in all aspects of our daily life. So that on the active setting, I'm letting go, which is a part of my meditative process. So we start to see that meditation is, in the most joyous of ways, 24 hours, 7 days a week, and it's increasing momentum, increasing in momentum. And what that momentum is housed around is the creative act. And that creative act is housed around a dynamic expression of creativity that is non-biased. So the genius of that creativity is then applied to whatever it is that it is pointed towards. So that's why you see brilliance and greatness in all aspects of our reality. So if we can harness that and start to draw its inspiration into all aspects of our fields of experience, we can actually use that creativity to the simplest of things, like how am I going to make grocery shopping fun, to the complexities of business, how am I going to increase my revenue, while so on and so forth, to a meditative process, to painting. So now if you can agree with that, and we can say that that creativity can be expressed in so many ways, then we can actually apply that exact formula to meditation, to stillness, to relaxation, to confidence. So if you can find confidence in one place and success in one place, then that confidence and success can be applied to everything. The question is just how. And that formula has an answer. And that answer exists within the creative act. And that's meditation, in its ability to stimulate an algorithm, I guess, for your continued resolution. Any questions so far? Does anyone need any clarifications in any of those points? Well, that's good. We're entering into comfortable silence. What I like about being quiet in a public setting with my eyes open, when maybe something could be said or maybe not, is how comfortable can I make myself right now? Let's see. For 1 minute, let's see how comfortable we can make ourselves without saying anything. So now that was 1 minute. So do you notice where you are? And how you are posturing yourself physically, mentally, emotionally? And can you also reflect on what kind of thoughts you were having at that time? Were they comfortable thoughts or uncomfortable thoughts? And regardless if you are having comfortable or uncomfortable experiences, was it a challenge to maintain it? And the answer will be yes or no. So now then, as a practice, we would then recall the sensation of comfort, which would be a thread that would be running all the way through, and it went like this, potentially. So it had this momentum, and then it hits a point where it thins right out. But it's still there, but there's a little bit of a challenge to kind of keep it. And that's the part that I'd like you to examine, is that where did it narrow out? And can you bring it back up again with momentum? So now the question is how? How would I do that? And the answer lies partially in your ability to relax and breathe. So relax yourself physically as much as you can on your skeleton. Like as though you were sleeping, sitting up. Like that level of relaxation. And then breathe into the comfort that you feel there at the very center. The center of not the central axis, but the center of the center of the center of the center of the center that exists everywhere within the blueprint of your body. So that is the most finest of fine detail. That center of that center of that center. And breathe. And then we would do it again, so it's a continuation. Let's try another minute. And ideally, eyes are open, because if eyes are closed, then it's a little bit too easy. But looking at me, looking at you, and seeing how that feels. That was another minute. This was much quicker, no? I noticed that to be quicker. Now, how did it feel? So see how we're developing an analysis with ourselves, but in a positive way. So then we register as to what that felt like, what that sounded like, what that smelt like even. So all of the senses are involved with capturing this data from this feedback loop that we've created. And within that, we can now decipher, well, how long was I comfortable for? What were the thoughts that were associated to it? and then begin to let go of all of that thought and association that is supporting being uncomfortable, and apply more conscious awareness to those thoughts and association. And when I say association, I mean your sensory experience, sensation, to those comfortable thoughts. So that which is now supportive. And then start to develop a very keen understanding as to how the thread of comfort exists over here and over here, within those uncomfortable thoughts and within the comfortable thoughts, within the discomfort and within the comfort. And that might take time to find that when you're uncomfortable, there's still a thread of comfort, and then it brings you back into comfort, and then discomfort becomes less and less because it's perception. So an incredibly uncomfortable circumstance is actually no longer uncomfortable. It's just simply a circumstance that one is experiencing. And by discomfort, it can be so many things. Sweeping a floor for 2 hours could be excruciatingly uncomfortable because of the numbness of boredom that rises inside of you. Right? Perception. So now when we're sitting in meditation and say, I can't meditate because I'm having all of these thoughts that are distracting me. Well, what if we just accepted the fact that you have thoughts? Why do they have to be distracting? They're just doing their thing, so why don't you just do your thing? Do your thing. And you can do that because you're not thought. And potentially you just proved yourself that on a small scale by becoming increasingly more comfortable from 1 minute to the next. So it's how we see things. So if you're looking at thought, well then who is doing the looking? And then if you were looking at who is doing the looking, well then who is doing the looking of the looker? And then so on and so forth. But the same thing can be done with comfort, the same thing that can be done with any aspect of this relaxation. So relaxation within relaxation within relaxation within relaxation within relaxation is taking you to a high peak of experience, because now you are quite literally moving with a wave of energy that exists beyond the capacity of experience that is found just simply from the material world. And as expanded and far out as that seems, there's just some simple truth related to that. An instrument in science is becoming finer and fine-tuned in order to detect those subtleties. But potentially the most finest of fine instruments that exists within technology is the human nervous system. But it is the belief structure, the perception, that is guiding its ability to detect. So as we begin to mature our outlook on our experience, we begin to feel finer and finer elements of reality, which gives us access to a whole host of abilities in our active world, but also in our deeper dimensions of meditative practice. So for instance, how many times do you feel something but you put it in the category of imagination? Put it into this just unknown file. And so what we develop as being important is that particular sensory experience that can be applied to what is occurring within the immediate. Oftentimes, if it does not have an immediate purpose, like on a utilitarian level, we just simply let it brush away. So to find the depth in that which you are doing is then to give access to newfound sensations, and within that understanding and within that insight into the future moments as they are revealing themselves to whatever you feel is important. So now we're looping back into that creative mechanism and growing its evolution of meaning and also purpose. So the more purpose we give to that creative act, then the greater sustainability it has as being in the forefront, which then, taking us back to our rhythmic algorithm of resolution, becomes very achievable. So now next time you begin to feel anxiousness or a depression or anger, or whatever it is that is kind of your hook or hang up, see if you can apply this conversation that we're having right now and know that it is in fact an active meditation practice. Would you mind getting me a little? Any questions? So then when it's time to sit into meditation, following the sensory thread that speaks to your depth of meditative experience. So what I mean by that is a sensation that you feel on an immediate when you say meditation. So say meditation to yourself now. Or even when you think about meditation, what is the ideal? And there's a very specific sensation that will come to you. And it might be very subtle or it could be great. Do you know what I mean by that? So now that's the thread that we begin to follow. And we hold it like a hypothesis that we are proving to ourselves whether or not it's true. But that initial grounding is the weight that we need in order to successfully remove ourselves from this flow of thought. And when I say remove ourselves, I mean that we're no longer identifying ourselves as being thought. You are identifying yourself as this looker perspective, the observer. And in as many ways as you possibly can, we want to incorporate this into the human physiology. So how your body works. We want to incorporate that into all the body systems as quickly as we possibly can. So it starts with comfort, the rhythm of the heart, the fluid within the body. So we have cerebral fluid, we have cellular fluid, we have all of this important fluid activity, the fluid within the myofascial tissue that allows it to slide slightly. And that fluid is now working with the rhythm of the heart, and it creates a very subtle rhythm. It almost creates like a swaying-like sensation. But we want to access that level of knowledge of our body from a practical, personal perspective, so that then we are everywhere simultaneously within the body's experience. So this fluid exists everywhere, just like this comfort exists everywhere, just like the pulse of the heart exists everywhere. And what also exists everywhere within the body is the sensation of warmth. So straight from the very core, where all the vital exists, all the way outwards to the level of the skin. So when we connect our meditative practice to that level of the body function, we are anchoring that very specific sensation of meditation to it all. And then it becomes much more readily accessible for our mind to access. Because now I can say, warmth associates me to this space that I'm talking about and we've been discussing for the past 30 minutes of meditation. The fluid within my body connects me to that meditative space. The rhythm of my heart, the comfort, all of it is relating, which is now being stimulated by my breath. So as I inhale and as I exhale. So the more we can relate our meditation to actually how we feel physically, not by any one ache or pain, but from that general perspective of comfort, pulsing of my heart, flow of fluid through my body, warmth experienced from the body, and the space that it creates, the longer sustained experience we have within that state. The more connections I can make to the rhythm of my breathing and my relaxation that comes from the meditation, the greater sustainability we have to connect all of this information back into the mind. So this is another feedback loop. My physical body and my mind looping, supporting one another, and easing my developmental stages, making them easy, because there's no longer any resistance. You're going to experience that which you are experiencing no matter what, because you're already here. How are we going to experience it? So it's in everything. You listen to music, you listen to sound, and the closer you listen to that sound, the greater ability it has to penetrate the body's sensory experience, the greater joy you get from it, the nuances you start to hear that you didn't hear before. But that sound that you listen to from music is connected to the depth of the process that I'm speaking about. So that music is considered to be the nod. And that nod is the guide that takes you to the deepest part of who you are. So that experience of self-understanding, which just means that you're comfortable in the situation that you're in right now. So as many ways as possible, we want to associate our meditative practice into our human physiology, so that then this function of the body can then influence positively our psychology. And then this physical experience and the mind psychology can start to give answer to the question of all of the phenomenology that you experience, the great phenomenon, these mysteries. So, in less words, good job. Keep developing your understanding of how you work in relation to that meditative space. Because what that meditative space is just you on the most subtle plane. And that subtlety just keeps growing. So take your hypothesis of understanding, your theory, your personal experience, and now apply it to your meditative technique. Please close your eyes. Keeping the eyes closed, bring full deep breaths into the body. Keeping the eyes closed, bring your gaze into the space just there in front of you. And with a soft intensity, maintain the integrity of the space, uninterrupted by any thought. Starting now. Softening the gaze, and very slowly, very gently, allow the eyes to open. So coming back from your meditation practice, what do you notice? Your time spent with your meditation technique, what did you do? How did it feel? Was it light and bouncy every time you attempted to ground into that thread of sensation? Did you bounce into a thought, idea, place, storyline? And if yes, how many times were you able to successfully bring yourself back to that thread which you're considering to be meditative experience? Or maybe you were successful in finding that weightiness. And within that weightiness, what was there? And was it possible to get that sensation or that thread of meditation to fill the entire blueprint that of the body, through and through? And if yes, then did you feel the connection between the experience of the body and the rhythm of your breathing, and how those two work closely together? So if you took a breathing a specific way, it really supported and gave reinforcement to that sensation which you felt. That is meditation. So that is the importance of technique. Because without technique, you have this beautiful concept we call meditation, with this beautiful mind that goes in a million directions, with this beautiful body that's feeling all kinds of stuff. A little bit of funny feeling in the knee, in the low back, in the shoulder blades, but at the same time you're relaxing into comfort. So if you have a technique, your mind, the sensations of the body, all that makes up our sensory experience can focus on one thing. And ideally, we focus on that one thing until we are successful in experiencing meditation at that place. And then once you can pierce that veil and say again and again, yes, I can experience meditation in comfort, through comfort. Then you move to the next point of subtlety, and then successfully do it there. Then the next point, until you've successfully created a whole body in relation to your meditation sensation that speaks to a quality of space. And then that's what you return back to again and again and again throughout the day. It's just the space found within your body that is connected to meditation. Again and again and again and again and again and again and again. And look how much space there is between you and I. We can both sit in this room and all sit in this room comfortably. And that's what we want to get to, is the realization that this space exists, meditation is there, and I am in that space continuously. No matter what else is going on, there's always space. And then when we sit in meditation, that's then the technique, the quality of space found within the body. And once I'm able to find that with this particular technique, I can move now to filling that space with my breathing. But not just any breath, the sensation that's associated to the breath right at the opening of the nostrils. Just that one point, that's it. And what that produces. And getting to the place again and again and again to meditation. So the byproduct of the initial engagement of that point of the opening is going to be all kinds of thought formations, all kinds of ideas, all kinds of stories. But that's clearing out. It's clearing out, and you're actually processing it through your meditation and then taking it out and actively engaging with that process. So you're matching it to every activity that you do. And then you find meditation in that place, and then you go to the passage, to the airway, to how it fills the lungs and expands into the rest of the body. So now you have a body and you have a breath that is a space of meditation. So now you stack space of body to the space of breath. And likewise to the mind. So if we back it all up, something that you can take home with you to your meditation today is comfort. Just find comfort. And if comfort is pretty good, then find the rhythm of the heart and its pulsing nature throughout the body, and find meditation there. And if that feels fine, then see if you can go to that fluid place and find meditation there. Any last questions on anything? So this was very good. I hope you have a wonderful evening and rest of your week. And quite potentially, I'll see some of you, is that this weekend? This Saturday, for a info session on a meditation technique that I'm teaching in March. If you're at all interested in meditation from the technique perspective, you should come to this. It's free. And we'll meditate together. You can ask any kind of question you want about meditation technique, and I'll talk about the one that I teach. It'll be very informative. I hope you all have a very wonderful rest of your evening. Namaste.